you're ready to explode your production and have 100% of your clients coming directly to you for free, then this video is going to be something you do not want to skip a single second of. Today, I've got on a very special guest, Peter Twollen, who has a YouTube channel living in Ottawa, and he has become a mega producer with all of his clients from all over the world coming directly to him, converting at an astronomical rate from his free YouTube videos shot on an iPhone. Now, I've done a ton of interviews with people that have become successful in production with YouTube, but this one is a little bit different. This one is so specific, so practical and tactical that I guarantee by the end of it, you're going to know exactly what to do, from how to record, where to record, what equipment to use, how to edit it and streamline it, how to follow up with the clients in order to convert them, and everything you need to do to build a thriving, successful, and very scalable business by properly leveraging free videos on YouTube. Now, before diving in, I want to mention two quick things. Number one, Peter has two incredible YouTube channels, one for production, which is his Living in Ottawa channel, and one for showing you exactly how to do what he's talking about, which I'm going to link below. All of the different strategies of how he builds this massive referral business by leveraging video, and he's got a ton of incredible content. So you want to check out both of those channels. And the second thing is, if you want to be like many and partner with Peter to have his help directly for free, including mine, then I'll include his calendar link below, and you can book a call with him to talk about aligning with the both of us to get us to help you one-on-one to scale your business with video for free. So without further ado, let's bring on Peter and show you the blueprint of how to crush it on video. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and we've got on one that I'm very excited for today, a long time in the making, where we've got on Peter Twollen, who has a YouTube channel living in Ottawa, and he's been absolutely crushing it. It's been incredible to see the success he's had with this channel, being one of the top producers at his brokerage. And now we're going to be diving into what he's been able to do and how he did it so that you can replicate this for your business. So really excited to dive into the tactical and practical of how to apply video and YouTube into your market. So Peter, what's going on, man?
How are you, brother? It's good to see you again.
Yeah, excited to be here. It's, been incredible to see somebody finally from Canada that's doing this properly, because we've had so many guests that are from the States, and we all know that things are done here a little bit differently. So before diving in, why don't we just talk a little bit about your story, kind of what got you into real estate, and then why you started to leverage YouTube, and then we'll go, dive into the practical after that.
Absolutely, man. Well, it started a long time ago, Mike. No, born and raised Ottawa boy. Married here with two boys, and ended up actually taking advertising in college and university, marketing as well. And then I fell into working in ad agencies and then opening up boutique hotels. So that kind of led me for many years into falling into airlines, where out of airlines, I was actually working a lot with the military that are relocating and being posted. So I started learning that whole process, like what does that look like? And a lot of military families were going through challenges being posted and not finding the right realtors to rely on and work with. And, happenstance, I ended up getting my real estate license and started working, actually opened a company called Homefront Canada, which was a military relocation network. So I started working with realtors across Canada, understanding different ways they approach their business and help military families make that move. And it was super rewarding, super fulfilling. I was in corporate Canada for such a long time that it was it got boring after a while. But then when I actually help people find a house, it was awesome, and being able to build true relationships with these people. So I ended up opening a Homefront Canada. Then we kind of replicated the same model about a year and a half later into Seniors Homefront, where we help seniors relocate in retirement homes, and that was huge. And then from there, we ended up going into well, when I started real estate, we were starting to do a lot of online leads. So I was doing online lead conversion, which was it was soul sucking. I was doing that for quite a while, and it was heartbreaking. And I think that was my first year and a half. I was on a team and not a lot of support. Started trying to convert these online leads, and I knew that if I didn't switch my business along the way, that I wouldn't last long in the business. And that's when I switched to working by referral, very sphere influenced based business, and then I just started growing from there.
That's super cool. You've done, so many different things. It's been incredible to see that you kind of have your hands in so many different pots that are, really niche driven, which is really cool. And I've seen that, the branding you've done around it, and it's been incredible. Then, what kind of made you decide to leap into YouTube of all things? Because most agents that I see, they're kind of first, kind of dive into social media is usually like Instagram or something like that. But you have
Yeah.
full tilt into YouTube. So what kind of made you decide to go down that avenue?
Yeah, great question. So when I was working with the military relocations, the one thing I found was, when people were relocating and coming to a new city, they had no idea about the city. They didn't know who to turn to. And when we were able to connect with these people, there was such a connection, there was such a loyalty, it was super strong. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the business. And when they came into my sphere, being able to market to them and stay in touch, and that business just compounded over time. So, like true entrepreneur, I was listening to many podcasts and searching YouTube to understand different models. And I came across this vehicle of using YouTube to leverage online, leads to position yourself as an authority figure, to put out valuable content on a regular basis. And, I really didn't believe it at first. And it's embarrassing. I have a hard time going back and looking at my early videos, because it's I won't take them off, and I don't change the thumbnails because I want to see that progression through a chronological manner, so I can look back and go, oh, that was terrible. But when I started to do it, it took about a good 3 or 4 months, and then all of a sudden, boom, it just started to compound. And I remember getting my first call when somebody came out to me from North Carolina, and it was great. So it was really this progression of understanding what's the model, that it's an authority figure. And the more I got into it, the more I realized that, the YouTube was really this bottom of the funnel. I saw everybody else paying for ads, being in front of Zillow, paying for their face to be on a bench board or like a garbage can somewhere. And I said, I'm never going to be that kind of realtor. I don't want to spend a dollar on advertising, because I like to save a dollar where I can. And so, yeah, I started to leverage YouTube. It was free, it was organic, it was compounding, and it started to really position me as an authority figure and built this kind of really strong loyalty. So as people came bottom of the funnel, they were ready to buy within 3 or 4 months very quickly. And the loyalty was, the qualification was already done. So it was beautiful. I was able to attract people that were just like me. And I found that as I started to play with my different video content, I started to attract the people that were basically like me. So if I did more stat driven, I started getting more engineers. If I started doing more kind of vlog personable side, I started getting, different people on the disc profiles. So it was fun to play with.
That's super cool. And yeah, it's been awesome to see, because I think that, seeing that journey is really important, because I do the same, which is so many people see our content today and think that this is just how it's always been since day one. And I think having that backlog is important, because we all started somewhere, and we all started somewhere terrible. So it's been able to filter our videos by oldest and see, we're not doing too bad now where we came from. So looking at your content, you kind of hit the nail on the head there in terms of talking about certain types of content. What specific videos have you found have worked the best in terms of that bottom of funnel conversion? These videos have actually generated clients and closed deals.
So I think in the beginning, I was doing a lot of YouTube and really focused on understanding, like you have a couple of great documents that actually specify the top ones to really go and do when you're beginning your channel. So cost of living, the pros and cons of living in this city, those kind of value driven episodes were great. And so I think those were great for forming the channel. And then as you kind of progress, I found that really getting specific on certain neighborhoods became really, really focused, because then I started bringing people. So I think in the beginning, the clickbait, the negative titles really attract a lot of people, and they get the most clicks, but it's not the ones that really convert at the highest level. I find that once you use that as almost like a funnel system, bring them in, if somebody's searching for that keyword term, then they fall into your channel. And then the loyalty really begins as you stay consistent with the channel and doing certain neighborhoods, certain areas, getting really niche. Because then those people kind of come along, they see that video, and then they reach out to you. And it's pretty mind-boggling. Like I'll be out on calls, and I'll get a call from someone that's, hey, I just watched 20 of your videos. You're my guy. I can't wait to meet you. I can't believe I'm talking to you. And I'm like, hey, yeah, it's I'd be honored to help you and help you out. So it's really like this they see so many videos that they self-qualify themselves, and you're almost seen as a celebrity figure, which is just, it's a phenomenal experience.
Yeah, it's incredible because like when you look at the average conversion rate of cold calling or Facebook ads or some sort of other lead generation strategy, it's like 1% at best. Whereas when you look at YouTube,
Yeah.
you know, we've been looking at a lot of the data and it's anywhere from 60 to 80%. It's almost guaranteed that if they reach out to you, they're working with you because they've made the initiative to reach out, and they're doing so that it's an inbound lead versus outbound conversion. And it's just incredible to see that they've almost made up their mind before they've even got to the call. Which is amazing. And, you know, I think one of the things looking at your channel that I really love is that you are doing this approach with videos that are outside. And I think that's what a lot of people are curious about is, you know, sometimes people see my videos and they're more agent focused. So I can do it from the comfort of my home. Whereas your videos are more so out and about. They're in the actual communities. They're in the neighborhoods. And I really like that because I find, as you alluded to, people are kind of at the bottom of the funnel. They're looking to see themselves in the area. But a lot of people kind of have this assumption that to do this content outside, out in these areas, that it's this undeniably difficult task to do. Because it's logistic nightmare, and they think that because you can't do it at home, it's impossible to scale. But you've been incredibly consistent. So I think it would be important to talk about what that process is like for you in terms of actually recording content, finding the ideas and then scheduling it and recording it. Are you having somebody help you? What's that process like? Kind of your overall workflow.
Absolutely. So in the beginning, it was, you know, like anything in life, you're really kind of learning through it. You find other people, you start to learn from their models, you try and grab what you can from the information, and then you put in your business and you know, this isn't working, I need to adapt, I need to tweak here. And it went on. And when you look at the beginning, I was using my cell phone, you know, an iPhone 13, and I was using a shotgun mic. It was a Shure mic with a, you know, the little muffler on it on the end. And, you know, you would go and shoot something, and you did a great take. You finally found the one moment when no trucks were driving by. There was nobody staring at you. You found a spot that you weren't going to get run over in the parking lot. Like, it was all these factors you had to think about. And then wintertime came. We'd have snowbanks, you know, 6 feet high. And I debated, do I show this? Do I not? Like, it's not very attractive. But I want to show it all because I want people to know this is what you're getting into. This Ottawa is a northern city. You have to be ready for that. And so, you know, moving from the shotgun mics, and then you do a great shot, and then you realize back in the editing room later, like the wind was just muffled everything out, and you just lost that entire shot. And so you had to adapt. You had to figure out what's the best time of day. Where's that, you know, twilight light to be used at? What kind of angle you're looking for? What's a really good spot? And what's going to be intriguing? How do you keep it fresh in this neighborhood? Because some of these neighborhoods are exactly like the other neighborhoods. It's like, well, what's really special about this neighborhood? And how do I find the right angle that really is attractive? So that was a whole process. And then moving up from that, I got to a lav mic, and the lav mic was just phenomenal. We used to do the original lav mic where you'd have a separate audio file and put it into editing, and that was a pain in the butt. And then I got this Saramonic kind of a Bluetooth connected into the port of the iPhone. That was a game changer, because then I could set up a tripod and I could be 40 feet away and walking towards it and having a conversation, and it was just so clear. So that was huge. Still work with the iPhone today, doing the vlogs. We have about 30 neighborhoods left to do before I've covered all of Ottawa. Wow. And I've gone out to different cities, like about an hour outside, like small towns, to really cover them all. We set up with a tripod, iPhone with the Saramonic lav mic system. That's been great. That system still works today, no problem at all. I usually shoot in the mornings after 9 o'clock, before 1 o'clock, just because there's no kids around. There's nobody, like low traffic, and the wind doesn't come in as well. So that was really the outdoor side. And then when I switched inside, still kind of using that same system inside a talking headroom, but now basically, and I just hit 120 videos on the channel, and now I'm finally, you know, upgrading to a DSLR, the proper mic system, proper lighting, a proper YouTube studio. And that's a learning curve. Like, every time you add a new piece of equipment, it's like you have to learn it again. It's like, what's the settings on this? And it can be frustrating. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you need to surround yourself with experts like yourself, like, you know, being able to connect with you and your success and understand how, you know, how are you doing it? Going to, you know, don't go to Best Buy. I'm going to the best camera shop in town. where the guy that's worked there for 25 years is saying, here are the settings, here's how you do it, Sonny. And I'm like, thank you. So that's really, it's been huge for me.
That's really cool. And I think it goes to show you, you know, a couple things that I want to take away is that it can be very simple. It doesn't have to be expensive. It could be very simple. It could be very basic. And I think, you know, the one thing that hits home with what you just said is committing to the process where you're 30 neighborhoods away from doing the entire market. Right. A lot of people are saying, you know, I'm going to go do one property tour, and if it doesn't bring me a client, then I'm not going to continue to do it. Whereas you went in with the mindset, and this is how I approach content and how anybody that thrives at the YouTube approaches it, which is that I'm going to do this forever. It's a pillar part of my business. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to approach it in a way where I want to become recognized for the whole city. And I think a lot of people are just going in so short-sighted, whereas the vision needs to be so much bigger if you want to thrive on a platform like this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I get calls from people who say, hey, man, you seem to know the city. You know the city inside and out. And now that's helped with referral business too, because if there's areas outside of my geo area, and I don't have a geo farm, like I'm really by referral. So my clients are from way west to way east to way south, you know, as far as you can comfortably drive. And so it's a great way to kind of keep that sphere of influence connected as well, right? With new videos as you go through it. But, you know, the marketplace is open to the agent that wants to commit to it. Cause like, just like you said, I see it like a lifestyle. When I first went to it, I said, you know what, I'm not going to just do 10 videos. Like I'm going to do this until I find somebody. And it took 3 months. And when that first one happened, I was like, this actually works. This proof of concept confirmed what I was doing with my business. And then I was committed for the long haul. I'm like, this is a new opportunity. This is one of the pillars of my business. And I'm just gonna hammer it and do as much as I can.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, you know, I see so many people give up. And I think it's an unfortunate thing where they see that if they don't get a client in 3 months, that they're going to give up, and that they just, you know, can't seemingly commit to that long-term process. Now, you know, looking at where you're going with your content, a lot of people are kind of curious about that next layer of depth, which is like you've talked about the recording. Now it's time to do the editing and the not so fun stuff, which is, you know, the editing, the thumbnail design, the optimization. What's kind of your process after you record? Are you batching your content? Like when you go out, are you doing multiple locations? And then when you come back, what's that process from like record to actual publish for you?
Yeah. So, you know, what I would do, I started getting really systematic with the neighborhoods. So we basically drew out a map of Ottawa, and I knew all the neighborhoods. So I would have a certain time frame to go. So I drive with my wife, and we would get the B-roll, you know, sticking the camera on a gimbal outside the window to get all the housing and the parks and everything else. And we would spend maybe 2 hours doing about 3 or 4 neighborhoods doing that B-roll. Then I would go back to the neighborhood and I would actually shoot just on my own without my wife, because, you know, we have a busy family life and she needs to be there. So finding these windows of opportunity to kind of line things out and have that ramped up. And as I get the files, in the beginning, I tried to do some of that editing and it was painful. I just said, there's no way, if I need to scale, I need to bring in the experts around me to really invest in this as an opportunity. So as I get the videos, they're on my iPhone, I upload them to Google Drive and I send them off to my video editors who are virtual assistants, and they start to work on it and we collaborate back and forth. We tweak those videos. And then I need to have at least a ramp. You know, I get very uncomfortable if there's less than a month ahead of content, because then I'm like, okay, this is not good. So, you know, working on that process, that's how we put the videos together. And then the thumbnails themselves, still design them myself on Canva. But I do want to upgrade from there. Like my CTR right now is about anywhere from a 4.5. You know, it's not bad. But it's got to get better. You know, I see there's opportunities where the titles are the ones that are driving a lot of the click-through rates for me, not the actual thumbnails. Yeah. And I've just gotten lazy with that because I was in such production doing deals. And then when the thumbnail comes, it's like, okay, I would quickly put it together without much thought. And if you watch anybody in the industry, like you look at Mr. Beast, he's like, the thumbnail is one of the most important processes of the entire thing. And so I think in 2023, I'm really going to take that to the next level, really get dialed in on thumbnails, get dialed in on titles. And as the vlogs run out, you know, because I've done the neighborhoods, I'm really going to focus on a lot of other content, you know, talking head style, which I can really produce so much easier because the vlog does take a lot. But once the vlogs are there, it's cemented this foundation of covering the entire neighborhood. So now people like, thank you so much for showing us what the houses look like in the neighborhood. I know that's not the neighborhood we want to go to now. These three do, and we're going to go there. So it's been huge for that.
I love it. And I think the way that you set it up, is something that people really need to take note of in terms of the neighborhood tours, because it's something that creates that bingeable content, because people don't just want to look at one neighborhood. They want to compare and contrast. So they look at multiple neighborhoods. And if you've got all these neighborhood tours and they're properly kind of segmented into playlists, well, they're going to continue to stay on your channel, which increases the ranking authority. And I think the most important thing that is maybe the intangible that most people don't think about when it comes to what you're doing with your content specifically is, in order to actually create these videos, you need to be well educated. So what it does is it makes you such a more value-driven resource for your clients, because now you can speak from experience and with context as to, it's not just, hey, Peter, I'm looking at choosing between these three neighborhoods. What do I do? And you're like, well, I prefer this one. Well, when you look at your content, you can say why, you can validate it, compare, contrast, pros, cons, because you've studied that in order to actually put out a valuable driven video. And I think a lot of people are kind of lacking in that educational component to their content because they don't want to study it. They don't want to become an expertise in it. And that kind of trickles down to why they probably don't have as many clients as they would like to.
Absolutely. And it's interesting too, because as we put the content out, what we start to see from my experience of when I first started in the business, 8-9 years ago, was working online leads and the low trust, the low access, it was really much this, how do you get them to sign this agreement to connect with the buyer rep? How do you hold that over their head? And it was like this threat of non-value to keep them in the relationship. Now, as they come through, I've had a great amount of referrals from my sphere of influence business, but a lead coming from YouTube who's actually done the due diligence to watch 20 of my videos, they're more loyal than anybody. And it's wonderful that have them come in and they actually they're just so dialed in. They know what they're looking for. YouTube, like anybody that's looking on YouTube and using it as a research vehicle, someone, I don't want to judge, but it just seems like they're more highly educated, more financial standing. It's an interesting market to play with versus the online leads that we were really converting on or not converting on with a 1% to 2% conversion rate back in the day. But yeah, it's a blessing for sure. It's a great vehicle for my business.
Definitely. And before kind of going into recommendations for people, one of the things I'm always curious about is, it's kind of a two-pronged question, but the first part is, what are you saying in your videos, whether it be a call to action in order to get people to reach out to you? And then once they reach out to you, what's that process like from initial point of contact to first appointment?
This was something which was a huge learning phase. There's so many little details in the process, and to understand I'm very much focused on maximizing my time. Like, I don't want to waste too much time. It's like, hey, how do I streamline this to make sure it's super efficient and it can take it to the next level? Because if you want to scale and be successful, how do you because your time is the only valuable asset you have, which can't be replenished. So, in the beginning, I was just trying to get comfortable in front of the camera, trying to get a sense of what is the question that I can answer and help people out with. And the call to action was always at the very end of the videos. And so, I had an okay retention rate, but then people were dropping off before they even saw the call to action. And, some people made comments I would say 6 months into the process saying, I didn't know you were a realtor. Like, wow. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. So then I started to say, okay, call to action at the end, call to action at the beginning. And I only switched that a few months ago, and then we started seeing a lot more calls pick up. And then of course, doing kind of the digital call to actions at the bottom of the screen, but the actual verbal connecting, because some people like probably you and like me, we watch YouTube all the time, right? Watching, how do they tweak? How do they do this? So I'm always got my earbuds in walking around. And so I'm verbally listening to a video. I'm not seeing the screen all the time. And so those call to actions, if you don't call them out in the way you speak, you probably lost somebody. So that beginning was really playing with the call to actions. What was the second part of the question?
The second part is, once they actually reach out to you, what's that process look like for actually booking the appointment? Because I know that, some people have a call system, some people take it more personally. What's that look like for you, especially vetting people? Because I think, one thing that people are curious about is time wasters.
Absolutely. So we have a lot of people. So I've helped people from, across Canada and across the US. That's the majority of the business we get. But I've helped people from Singapore, from Japan, from Mexico, from India. Like, there's no South Africa. There's no way I would ever reach these people on a budget that I was spending, that's for sure. You know, I had families send me a picture, a family in South Africa in their living room, tiled house, big, beautiful, big screen TV, and the family's sitting around watching TV of me on, you know, and I'm like, oh, that's mind-boggling. So when people reach out, it really is, you know, you do get renters, and you do get buyers. And in our industry, you know, renters want to help as much as you can, but it's difficult because the inventory is tricky. The work process involved with the rental is much more tricky. So, you know, we have people on our team that actually can help with that process. So the very first step is kind of qualifying them through, whether it's a WhatsApp, a text, or a normal phone text. If it's an email, a lot of people tend to take that route because they automatically assume you're super busy and they don't want to disturb you. So they'll kind of reach out softly, and then so I kind of go back and say, you know, hey, you know, I have this templated email process that I go through saying, yeah, here's some information I need to better serve you. What are you exactly looking for? If it's a rental, then I kind of take them down this one path. If it's a buy, I'm taking on this path, depending on the timeline. And then in the beginning, I used to jump on a video call with them. So I'd spend an hour and a half to an hour doing a video call with somebody. And then after a while, they would never buy, right? Because you might be on the process for 6 months. So I started to kind of qualify them by a phone call first. Hey, you know, where you at? And just see if we could connect. If I can serve them, can I meet their expectations? Are we a good match? Is this somebody I want to put into my sphere of influence after the fact and serve them for life? Because for me, my business is by referral. So I see, you know, working by referral as a nucleus. And YouTube is kind of like an offshoot that feeds these new relationships into my sphere of influence. So as I serve my great clients and I'm working with people I love to work with, and that compounds and sends me more referrals, you know, year after year, my business always grows. I want these new relationships that come in, because some of those people will leave. They might become agents, they might move out of town. And so I need that new en route of clients that really come into that process. So for me, I've really been looking at that as an opportunity to bring these relationships in, and I qualify them. And if we're not a great match, maybe not, I can find somebody else that can help them. And so that whole kind of that trifecta, as I call it, is this sphere of influence, YouTube and Google, bringing in these great new relationships and just serving them, and then, you know, being there for them.
I think that's an incredible process. And it's really good that you say that, because a lot of people are kind of caught up with just wanting to work with anybody and everything. But what you'll see is that that's not scalable. And you want to get to the point where you're working with the people that you want to work with. And that sounds obvious, but the only way that you're going to get there is if you actually start to draw hard, you know, guidelines around that and parameters, and setting things in stone so that you can follow it. Otherwise, you're always going to be working with everybody, because you'll never be niching down to the right people. So I love that. And that kind of is a good segue into, you know, the next thing that a lot of people are going to be asking about, which is, how do I get started? What's your best recommendation for people that are saying, okay, you know what, I watched the video with Peter, I'm super excited, I'm going to go do community tours in my market. But I just don't know where to start. So what's your recommendation for people that are saying, you know, this year is going to be my year?
You know, just start. That's how you just got to do it. And, you know, I would say, you know, YouTube is never going to penalize you for not, you know, doing a good video. You know, you're going to suck in the beginning. It's just going to happen. It's going to take time. And just like you always say, and I love that saying, you got to put the reps in. And it's so true. It sounds kind of cliche to hear at first, but then after a while, and you're actually living it, you're like, man, that is so true. Like the more times I'm in front of the camera, the more comfortable I am. The very beginning, I would avoid people's eyes. I would try and find, and the videos took forever. Now it's like, I'm shooting it in the middle of a parking lot. People are driving around me going, who is this guy? And I'm like, so like, and you know, you'll be walking around, people say, you're that YouTube guy. And I'm like, oh my, like people recognize you right out in the street. So I would say, you know, you have to become a student of YouTube. And just become a student of content creation. You know, you become the content creator. How do you, you know, every video, you always go back and you you make it better. And every video you become stronger and stronger. And the person you like, the videos I shot 2 years ago compared to today are completely different. And now to do a talking head video, to shoot something off, it's so easy. And it's because I've put some of that time in, and I'm nowhere near you. I mean, you got years ahead of me. And I think, you know, for me, I want to get to that next level. And you see these people you aspire to get towards, but absolutely understanding that it's a marathon, not a sprint. Put the time in, shoot 50 videos. Don't judge yourself. Don't look back, and don't commit. You know, don't say I'm going to do 10 and see what happens. Like it's a new process. It's a lifestyle. Put it in place and you just get better each time. And then the equipment will come. You upgrade the equipment, you'll get better titles, you get better thumbnails, but it's just your delivery and being authentic on the camera, which is really super important.
Yeah, and I think, one of the subtle things that you said there, which I'm so glad you did, especially knowing a video I'm releasing tomorrow morning, is being a student of YouTube. Because I think this is one of the biggest mistakes, is that people aren't even practitioners of the platform to the point where they are choosing to watch other platforms. They are not even watching other people's YouTube videos, but expecting themselves to become great at YouTube. And it's like wanting to become great at basketball and you don't watch how LeBron James plays, right? How can you expect to do better if you're not looking at people that are great? And that's, I think you referenced Mr. Beast, like my thumbnails are completely changing in the next batch because I've studied Alex Hormozi. I've looked at Iman Gadzhi. I've looked at, Vanessa Lau's now my coach. I looked at Mr. Beast, and the way that you improve is by looking at people that are doing it at the highest level and being honest with yourself. And I think that's one of the things that's really important is you have to be unbiased with your content. And it's important to get started, but if you want to improve, you have to look at your thumbnails and say, okay, these are the people that are doing incredibly well. This is how theirs looks. Here's how mine looks beside it. Who's would I click on? And looking at this as an opportunity to, even me, after putting out, I think I've put out almost 600 videos on my YouTube channel and thousands of short form, I still to date rewatch all of my own videos before they go live, start to finish. And I study people like Hormozi and Iman and these people in terms of what is their hooks, how's their editing changing, what changed with their thumbnails every single day. So Absolutely. Of course you're going to get better if this is now like what you're doing on a daily basis. You become consumed by the platform. How can you become good at something if you don't even immerse yourself into that space, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the value proposition of a client for a lifetime, right? I mean, if you commit to this process and somebody comes along and then they buy one home for you and then they move to the next home and you help them with that home and then they refer 2 or 3 more people that year to you. And what does that look like over a 10 or 15 years period for that one relationship? Right. I mean, it's massive. And this is just an on-route for that. But you have to become an expert in that field. And because it's going to change, right? A year from now, the tactics, the call to actions, the intros, someone's going to come along with something innovative and it's just going to click. And whether you're trying to balance the YouTube algorithm changing or just the way that people are consuming YouTube, it's ever changing. So yeah, it's tough.
100%. Of course. And that kind of leads into, the second last thing is, what can we expect from you going forward? Because, you're obviously, as you kind of alluded to, you're going to be doing more community tours, you're going to be doing more value-driven content, but you've also launched a new channel and you're going to be showing people these strategies, which I think is very much in need, because I see a lot of people that have channels that are just the production focused channels. And there's people that, are putting out content about how to do video, but they've never even produced. And you've kind of got the experience and you've walked the walk, but now you're going to be able to show that. So why don't you give people a bit of a rundown of what they can expect from your new channel as well, which I'm super excited about.
Thank you, my friend. Well, I appreciate that, the opportunity to talk about it. Yeah, it's you can search up Peter Tulin. My other YouTube channel, the local, hyper-local marketing one, is really Living in Ottawa. And a lot of the things that we learned from that process and how to actually target it, the whole process of onboarding clients and then put them into your sphere of influence to stay in touch with them, stay top of mind, and get referrals coming out of that process. There's a whole opportunity there as well. And then we also couple it with Google. So it's really these 2 largest search engines of YouTube and Google driving these new great relationships into your sphere of influence and doing it from like an organic, holistic perspective, right? Both are onboarding. How do you spend the time? What do you need to focus on? How the SEO is driven on both sides. And even on the Google side, it includes things like Google My Business and how to build that around a realtor's business. And so those are my 3 pillars. It's YouTube, sphere of influence, Google. And these are these search engines are evergreen content. They're staying there forever. You're hitting people at the bottom of the funnel. They're coming in. And it's just a wonderful way to build a business. So the new channel is called Peter Tulin, but the focus is really called peak referrals. How do you generate these peak referrals from YouTube and Google? And how do you build it out of his sphere of influence and maximize your time? And for me, it's really about net profit, because we hear a lot of that in the business where, hey, I have X amount GCI. That's great. But if you're spending on billboards and TV and ads and online leads, like, no, thank you. Like, I do not want to touch any of that stuff. I've done advertising. I've had zero return on it. I've done online leads. I've seen, calling people 7 to 8 times to finally get them and convert at a 1 to 2% conversion rate. It's just not for me. It's great. Everything works. But for me, I would rather create content. I just feel so much more fulfilled by it. I love the journey. I love the entrepreneurial side of it. And so this channel really is an exploration of that. We're going to deep dive into everything YouTube, everything Google My Business, everything about sphere of influence, focused together in a systematic way to kind of seamlessly pull it all together so you can generate referrals for life, for your business. And then, of course, as that grows and compounds, you're going to need help. So how do we bring on team members? How do you feed them? And how do you keep this whole thing just prospering? So that's the whole focus of the channel. And it's going to be, apart from practitioner, but, from a hyper local perspective in your local marketplace, but also how do you grow it for the future? And it's going to be part of journey too, to learn it along the way.
I love that. It's exactly what the industry needs, because there's so many people that, we've had even on my channel that are crushing with YouTube, but they haven't really dove too far deep into sharing with other people, how they're actually doing it. And everybody's curious. Everybody's chomping at the bit because they want to do this for their own business. But unless they go buy programs, there's not much out there that says, here's exactly what to do. So I'm excited for it, man. And the last thing that I want to kind of bring it full circle with is, you were at a very traditional brokerage, right? You were at the one that everybody knows, and you came from a very old school approach, but you were taking a modern approach at an old school brokerage. And you recently made the decision to come over here and align with us at EXP. And I'd love to know, and for you to share with people, what kind of piqued that curiosity, and what was kind of the final decision maker for getting you to partner over here?
Yeah, I've been in business now for about 8 years, and always with a bigger brokerage. Remax was the brand that I was under, and nothing wrong with them. Great model, great business. For me, I just started to see it much more like a bricks and mortar mentality, where it was kind of created in the 70s and 80s, where it just felt short term. There was a high expenses, and I wasn't getting a lot of lead generation from it. And for me, I really need to go out, and I started realizing that to take it the next level, I really needed to create my own personal brand. I needed to get away from the brokerage supporting me and be my own self. And as living in Ottawa started to grow that brand and really started creating opportunities for me and push me creating me as the authority figure in a hyper-local marketplace. And I was really working that sphere of influence. My business was compounding and was based on me and who I was. It wasn't the brokerage. It was my own personal brand. And I knew that moving forward, how powerful video was from a conversion level, from a loyalty level, that I needed to kind of build that personal brand. And after a while, the brokerage or the bricks and mortar was kind of, it was kind of holding me back from being able to exercise building a personal brand. And so that was part of it. The operating costs, of course, were also a large part of it as well. But for me, I wanted to surround myself with the experts in the field. And I think a couple of years ago, I started to make a hard choice in my life, saying, you know what, I'm not going to pay cheaply for this and get a cheap job. Now it's like, how do I know that I maybe I can learn that job, but let me find the expert that can actually do it really well and surround myself with those people. And then as I get this expert advice, I can actually grow and scale my business that much faster. So I started surrounding myself with those kind of people. And that's really what the EXP world, being more tech savvy, being more, agent focused, allowing me to build my own brand, and then being able to associate myself with yourself in the wolf pack, where, I can lean on people. It was tricky in a brokerage sense, because if you went down the hallway to speak with another agent that was very successful in your marketplace and say, how are you doing that YouTube thing? How are you doing that Google thing? How are you converting your online leads? They would either lead you astray and not tell you, or they just, wouldn't give you very much information at all. And because you were competition. And so with the Wolfpack, because we're almost coming up on 1,200 people strong across North America, I can reach out and I can say, hey, Mike, do you know someone that's really doing this really well? Yeah, speak to so-and-so. And I can pick up the phone and they will share their whole recipe book with me. So for that collaboration, to be surrounded with the experts, to limit my time in terms of ramping up to understand things. And then, if I wanted to build something else out of my business, I can reach out to somebody there, and they would be more than happy to help me out.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see that. And I continue to learn from people that are in the group as well. And because we've got people that are, crushing it on TikTok, and, we're good at YouTube, and they want to learn that. And it's kind of this cool kind of pool of experts that are all over the place that, again, you could literally call up and are willing to help you, even though they're not in the same organization or downline as you within our own kind of Wolfpack group. So it's been incredible to see the community that I've built. And again, couldn't be more honored and grateful to have you a part of that. So guys, as mentioned, I'm going to be linking both of Peter's channels down below, as well as their calendar links, so that if you want to book a call with Peter to talk about partnering with the both of us, to get both of us to help you take your business to the next level, you're able to do that as well. So Peter, again, any final words for everybody ready to take action?
No, I would happy to connect, and thanks again for the opportunity to speak with you. And I look forward to seeing where we are a year from now. I'm really excited about it.
You bet, guys. Make sure you go check out both of his channels. Again, hopefully we get to speak to some of you guys and help you guys become the next case study and success story on YouTube. So thanks so much for watching. As always, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.